Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of PILOTCLIMB.com. In today's video we're gonna talk about the takeoff sequence. Okay, we're gonna analyze what you should look when you are taking off. Okay, this is a Boeing 737, as I'm sure you know already, and what will happen is that we're gonna talk about how to perform the takeoff not only on the Boeing 737 but on a multi-pilot aircraft. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. V1 rotate. Hi there, if you want to support my job, please give it a like to the video, and without further ado, let's talk about the takeoff sequence. Okay, so we are lining up now at the moment. So what you should consider when you are about to take off, first of all, you should have clear in your head what is the first point, especially when flying IFR, what is the first point on your SID. Okay, in this case, if you look in the navigation display of the Boeing 737, we've got an AirNav SID. Why is an AirNav SID? Because these points are AirNav, Papa Echo 612, Papa Echo 611, etc. Okay, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a backup and a normal procedure. In fact, if you look on the charts in here, this is the AirNav SID, Papa Echo 611, Papa Echo 612. However, we've got as well the same SID, but with using conventional navigation. So straight ahead from Bravo Oscar Alpha 117.1, we are here. Okay, you can see the red aircraft there. Okay, on 294 radial all the way down to 12 nautical miles, Bravo Oscar Alpha. Okay, Bravo Oscar Alpha is 17.1 and is set on my nav1 70.1, and in fact if you look in here, Bravo Oscar Alpha is identified as well. All right, so first thing, always know your first point. Okay, then you should know as well what is going to be your emergency procedures in case you lose an engine. Okay, sometimes you have these emergency procedures. Okay, these single engine SIDs where you have to follow in case you lose the engine. Okay, because the SID guys, they have the requirement for 2 engines. Okay, if you lose 1 engine, you might not be able to follow the standard SID that we just set for our departure. Okay, and that's why we've got the 1 engine out SID that normally they have a lower climb gradients. Okay, beautiful. So now you have your first point as a normal SID, you have your emergency procedure on your head. Okay, now just for the takeoff sequence, another thing that you should always take into consideration is the terrain. Okay, as you can see in here on the right we have 0 terrain, and on the left we've got very good terrain. Okay, as you can see the yellow and the red is terrain in there. Okay, so this is very important to understand as well, because in case of any problem, if you lose all the information, you don't want to go to the left, but basically you want to go to the right. Okay, because you don't have terrain in there. Okay, once you know about the terrain, you should press weather radar, and if your aircraft has got the weather radar feature, you should scan for weather. Okay, in today's flight there is no weather there, so the weather radar is not giving us anything in there. Okay, any information there, so we can go back to the terrains thing. Okay, so now that we know all these things, okay, what we have to do, let's actually talk about the sequence that you should follow on the 737. Okay, so first thing to do, the 737 guys, normally the jet aircraft, they are not like the piston aircraft. Okay, what you need to do on the multi-engine aircraft, you don't simply set the takeoff thrust. The takeoff thrust in our case is going to be 93.7. Okay, so you're not gonna just increase the thrust like that to 93.7. No, that's not how you do it. Okay, you need to first set a takeoff thrust that will stabilize both engines. Okay, so normally it's 40%. Okay guys, so if you look on here on the engines, okay, you don't simply just set 93.7 like that, like crazy. Okay, no, that's not what you do. You need to set a takeoff thrust that will stabilize both engines, and we'll check that both engines will start at the same RPM. So what we do normally, we set 40% on the RPM. Okay, and we let the aircraft to set the 40% takeoff thrust, pretty much. Okay, in this case we go 41 and 42, so they are stable, as you can see. Okay, the RPM are stable, they are pretty similar. Then from there you set the takeoff thrust. Okay, now release a little bit the power again, but we're gonna do the full sequence in a second. Okay, Once you have that, if the aircraft has got a toga or the auto throttle engaged, which in this case we've got in here auto throttle arm, and you can see as well on the FMA the arm on the auto throttle in there, okay, then you press toga and you check that the toga system will actually set the takeoff thrust, which we set in this case 93.7, 93.7. Okay, so this is very important to cross-check, because if your toga system won't set your takeoff thrust, it's going to be, you're gonna use longer distance for the takeoff because you are taking off with less thrust. Okay, so 40%, you check the engines are stable, you push toga and you check that you've got the takeoff thrust. Okay, by the time you've got the takeoff thrust, the speed should be alive already. Okay, so the speed should start to increase, and depending on the operator, guys, some operators they check the speed at 60 knots, some operators they check the speed at 80 knots, some operators they check the speed at 100. Do what is better for you. Okay, if you are a simmer, you might want to use 60, 80, whatever if you feel more comfortable. Okay, I've been flying a real Boeing 737 for 12 years and I've always used the 80 knots. Okay, so 40% stabilized, takeoff thrust, then the speed goes to 80 knots, you call 80 knots, okay, then you let the aircraft to accelerate and you arrive to the V1. The V1 in our case is going to be 142 and the VR is going to be 143. So slightly before V1, and I made a separate video where I talk about the takeoff speeds, okay, slightly before V1 you call V1, okay, you want to end up the call V1 at the 142, so you will start to call V1 138, for example. Alright, so 138 you start V1, by the time you finish saying V1 you're gonna be at 142, 143 you call rotate, and then once you rotate, okay, you should start a rotation and the pitch should go to 15 degrees. Okay, 15 degrees of pitch means that this is 5, this is 10, and this is 15 up there, this line in there, okay, because the small line is 2.5 and the middle line is 5 degrees, 7.5, 10, 12.5, 15 degrees. Okay, so you should do the rotation all the way up to 15 degrees, and the pitch should increase for every second by 3 degrees. So in order to get to the 15 degrees pitch attitude, it's gonna take you 5 seconds, because if every second your pitch will increase by 3 degrees, at 15 degrees you're gonna it's gonna take 5 seconds for you to get to the 15 degrees of pitch angle. All right, once you're at 15 degrees of pitch angle, you simply need to follow the flight directors if you have them, otherwise you keep 15 degrees, but you never exceed the 20 degrees pitch attitude during takeoff, okay, after the rotation. Why we use this exact speed on the rotation, okay, is because you want to have the tail clearance, okay, because the Boeing 737 has got the tail, okay, the tail of the aircraft, that if you rotate too fast, you might actually hit the tail on the ground, okay, do a tail strike, okay. This is actually a possibility. That's why we are very careful on the speed of the rotation rate, okay, so you don't just rotate like you want, you really need to keep this 3 degrees per second pitch increasement, okay. Alright, so I hope now it's all clear. What we're gonna do, we're gonna press time and we just perform the takeoff as a demonstration, okay. So as we said, we've got the time is in there, 40%. Stabilized, and now we set the takeoff thrust. Takeoff thrust set. knots.
E1 rotate.